How's it going, everyone? Ramsey Fisher here. I am home playing with some gear today. I haven't been fishing in a minute just because I just had a baby, so we're spending a lot of time at home getting into the groove of things, but I'll be out in the water shortly. So I wanted to take this opportunity to go over some of my favorite inshore artificial baits. I throw any of these for snook, redfish, and trout inshore. Of course, a lot of other fish will eat these lures: ladyfish, jacks, mangrove snapper, a variety of things, pompano, permit sometimes. But these are some of my go-to lures for primarily redfish, snook, and trout. And I'll also talk to you about when I throw these, times of days, the habitats, the environments, whether it's mangroves or seagrass or the beach, places to throw these lures. Also, the methods that I use when I retrieve these lures, whether it's fast, whether it's slow, sinking near the surface, things that I think are essential to do when you're working these lures, trying to elicit a strike from a fish, and what type of fish that is. So we'll go through all these lures that I have here, primarily some top water, some mirror lures, some artificial shrimp, and some paddle tails, soft plastics. And if you guys have any questions about any of these lures or any other lures that you're interested in trying that aren't here, let me know. Ask some questions in the comments. I love to share my experience and give my knowledge to you guys so you can maybe have a better day on the water and catch some more fish the next time you go. So let me know if you have some questions about these, and let's jump right into it. All right, guys, so a lure that I've talked about plenty of times on my channel is the MirrOlure Mirrodine. And this is just a really small lure. It has a little bit of weight to it, so you can cast it pretty far. It has 2 treble hooks on it. Currently, both of mine are missing a hook. The hooks that come on these lures are pretty good. I definitely have lost a fish or two to these hooks straightening out. But if you don't want to have to buy new hooks to replace these right away, you don't have to. They're usually pretty good out of the box. If you do care about not losing a single fish due to these hooks straightening out, then I would encourage you to go replace these hooks. They do tend to rust after a little while, even if you clean them pretty well. But overall, these are great lures. This is the MirrOlure Mirrodine, or Mirrodine. They come in different sizes. I think this is like the medium size, but I love this kind of golden color, this green and gold. It works great when you're in like backcountry mangroves, grass flats. It looks really good in those type of tannin rich waters. I do have a few colors of these that I do like to use. This is particularly my favorite for backcountry. I do like throwing this a little bit cleaner, natural colored bait on the beaches where water's a little bit cleaner, and this represents a little bit more of the color of the bait that'll be in the water. So when you have clean water, your baits are usually pretty light colored to blend into the water, be as transparent and as invisible as possible to predators. So this is a great lure for the beach if I want to throw a hard bait on the beach. When you look for these in the store, they'll look like this. This is the packaging, or the typical packaging, the MirrOlure. I like throwing these lures anywhere in the backcountry, anywhere in mangroves, where there's seagrass, oysters, at a variety of depth. Usually no deeper than maybe 5 feet, 6 feet, because they're suspending. So they work really well in shallow water when you don't want to get too hung up in the grass, because they won't sink to the bottom. They won't get into the cover that's on the bottom as long as you're slowly retrieving them. They kind of come up a little bit as you work the lures. But these are really good for redfish, snook, trout, mangrove snapper even, ladyfish, jacks. A lot of predators will eat these. My dad's caught a sheep's head on this lure before, but I usually have this as a go-to for redfish, snook, and trout. And I can like rip this on the surface, work it kind of like a topwater lure, but I usually use this kind of like a twitching, suspending bait, where I'll twitch, pause, and a lot of fish will react to this lure coming across them. So this is a really good go-to lure for me in the backcountry. So next, I'm going to talk about some soft plastics. Soft plastic paddle tails are a great bait for almost anything that swims. You can throw these practically anywhere. If you're in deep water, you can throw on a little bit heavier jig head and let these sink a little bit and work the bottom. If you're in shallow water, they work just as well. If you do an exposed hook, keep in mind if you're fishing grass, you want to keep them a little higher, or let them sink down, but kind of keep them just out of the weeds. But you can rig these weedless if you have those style hooks. This is a DOA paddle tail. I think it's just the right size for almost anything to eat. You can cut soft plastics to be the right size for you, but these are already pretty small as it is. I only really trim these down when I'm fishing for maybe some snapper or even like tarpon that are feeding on like really small minnows. But DOAs are a great paddle tail soft plastic bait. I'll also use Z-Man sometimes. I've definitely shared a few clips of myself catching some redfish on some Z-Man. They make some good paddle tails as well, soft plastics. I also have a few other types that I will use. I have some bigger soft plastics. I like to throw these for maybe some bigger trout or redfish, snook, especially when I think that the fish are going after a little bit bigger soft plastic. These I think fit the hatch on that size. They look like a little bit more like a finger mullet, like a small mullet, and sometimes that can trigger a bigger fish to strike. I'll rig these the same as my other paddle tail, just on a jig head. If I'm in really shallow water, I can rig these weedless if I want to. But just another good, a lot of vibration with that tail moving through the water, which is great to attract fish. The soft plastics I'll throw in the same conditions as I would maybe the mirror lure, possibly in some deeper water, 8 feet, 10 feet, depending on if I'm fishing for trout. A lot of times I'm fishing that same 2 to 6 feet of water if I'm fishing for snook and redfish, and I'll work these a little differently. I can still do that same twitch pause retrieval, but I'll let these sink a little bit more and pause a little bit more between moving the bait, just because it's a sinking bait, so a lot of fish will strike on that fall when the paddle is the tail is actually wiggling as this bait falls to the ground. I do like to keep tension whenever I'm retrieving baits. I do like to keep a little bit of tension at any time, just to ensure I don't miss a strike when I don't have tension on the line, like during a in-between twitch and pause. But again, the soft plastics, great for mangroves, great for seagrass. I don't throw them too much on the beach if it's just sand. If there's some structure on the beach, then I can throw these, but typically these are like a grass flat or mangrove type of area when I'm throwing paddle tails. All right, so now let's talk about some shrimp, some artificial shrimp. A go-to for artificial shrimp is just a typical DOA. They have some great color selection. I like using more natural color baits. I just think they work better. They give the fish more time to investigate and actually believe this is a bait that they want to eat. The DOAs have some good action. They have a pretty decent hook in them, and the weight that comes with the DOA shrimp is, I think, just the right amount of weight. The problem with these shrimp is that after catching a few fish or just one good fish, the hook will start to slide out of the actual lure itself, and anytime you cast the bait, it'll start sliding out and it won't work just as well. So my problem with the DOA shrimp is that they're not very durable. They don't last very long, but if you have one brand new out of the package, I think odds are you can get a good bite if you can get this in front of the fish that's eating. I have some other artificial shrimps that I use. Gulp, Z-Man also has a soft plastic shrimp that I like to use. Savage Gear is a favorite of mine. They're a little pricier, but I think the imitation of some of the Savage Gear shrimp are phenomenal, and I've caught some great fish on those. Again, they're a little durable when it comes to fighting fish, but I've seen the soft plastic on the Savage Gear shrimp just melt away if you leave them out too long in the sun. Another shrimp that I use a lot of is a voodoo shrimp. They have some really good action, and I think the color is pretty good and natural. And the hooks they come with are really great. They're weighted. I can fish this shrimp for a while. If the shrimp gets torn up or melts, I can use this hook on a variety of other soft plastics, and I think it's a great match. So this is another, good bang for your buck lure. So the soft plastic shrimp I'll throw almost anywhere. I'll throw in mangroves, in grass flats, in the channel along sand and mud flats or off the beach. The beach is kind of a unique place for it. You know, most fish on the beach are looking for minnows, you know, bait fish, or maybe some sand fleas, or even some, you know, other, you know, crabs, crustaceans. But shrimp aren't as common on the beach because there's not habitat for them to hide from predators. So shrimp, I don't use that much on the beach, but then again, if you're fishing with shrimp, you're almost always going to get a bite. So it's not a bad bait to throw. I just don't think fish are necessarily looking for shrimp on the beach, but it's never a bad choice to throw a shrimp because almost anything will eat it. When I am using this shrimp, it's usually in grass flats, usually in kind of shallow water for sight fishing redfish or snook. I'll even throw these at sheep's head. Sheep's head are a pretty tough fish to catch on artificial, but if they're going to eat something, it's probably going to be a shrimp or a crustacean lure. A very good place to throw artificial shrimp, or any lure really, but I've done very well on shrimp, is on outgoing tides in mangrove areas where there's a channel or a creek draining water off of a grass flat. And if you are drifting and bouncing your soft plastic, your artificial shrimp through that creek, there's a good chance you're gonna get a snook or a redfish, maybe even a snapper, maybe a sea trout, because these shrimp are what those fish are looking for. Stuff drifting off those flats, those habitats, those ecosystems, and falling out of those environments with the tide in those creeks. So that's a great place to throw artificial shrimp. Let me know if you guys have any questions about these. I love throwing artificial shrimp. They just, it really depends on how durable they are and how long they're gonna last before you need to tie on another one. The way I like to fish these lures, these artificial shrimp, is usually with a little bit of a bounce and pause. I like to kind of either slightly twitch them, dragging them along the bottom, or maybe get a few repetitive tweaks or, you know, dings to the rod tip to kind of pull them up in the water column and then let them fall down. And when they fall, they'll actually wave their tail a little bit as they descend in the water column. And I think that's a pretty good way to, you know, retrieve these shrimp in front of any type of fish. So another great lure is a topwater. People love throwing topwater just because of the visual of a strike of a fish coming out of the water aggressively eating a bait. If something's gonna try to eat your topwater, you're gonna get to see it probably, and it's usually a more aggressive strike because they have to breach the surface to eat this. I like throwing these hidden spooks. Any type of spook lure that has, you know, like a back and forth motion on the surface is great. I just actually picked these up not too long ago and immediately lost a big fish because of the hooks that come on this lure. So I would recommend replacing the treble hooks on these when you get them. Some lures come with some good hooks. Unfortunately, this did not. I did get this in a kind of bundle variety pack from Bass Pro, and I like the style, I like the colors, but I'll definitely consider switching these hooks before I start throwing these for anything other than sea trout, just because I think they'll tend to straighten out. Another topwater that I will regularly throw or recommend people throw are the MirrOlure Top Dogs and Top Dog Juniors. These have a great knock, same as the Hedon, maybe a little louder. They're a little larger and they make a little bit more noise, but their profile is kind of the same. It's cylindrical, elongated. They do the same back and forth motion, but I just think that these are a little bigger, so you might attract a little bigger predator. These are a go-to topwater bait for me to throw around mangroves, primarily for snook, maybe some redfish. If I'm targeting trout, I'll probably throw the Hedons because they're a little smaller, but these are another good topwater choice. And you can chuck them so far because they weigh quite a bit. When I'm throwing topwaters of any style, I prefer to throw them in the mornings or in the evenings. I think that is when fish are most likely to be feeding on the surface, because they're a little bit more vulnerable when fish feed on the surface. So I like to throw these in the mornings or in the evenings. If you're targeting bigger fish, you might be able to get them any time of day, but often you're gonna get more strikes in the mornings or evenings when you're throwing topwater. Again, mangrove, seagrass flats, anywhere there's some structure or some fish holding up. I don't throw topwater too often on the beach, but if I would, it'd be again in the morning or evening time, maybe near the shoreline, because that's probably where you're gonna find fish that are looking to feed on the top. All right guys, thanks for watching. I hope you liked it. Let me know if you have any questions about some of these lures or lures of your own, where you want to fish with them, how to work the lures. The way you work and retrieve your lures is a big part of the game. It's almost as important as what lure you're throwing. It doesn't matter what lure you're going to throw if you're going to retrieve it wrong. So you have to make sure that you're retrieving your bait in a way, in a fashion that's going to entice a bite from a fish or the fish that you're looking for. Different type of fish like a different action. Snook are very quick to strike. They're very fast predators, so times they like fast moving baits. Trout, sometimes they're pretty lazy fish, so you want to retrieve a bait pretty slow and let it pause, because trout love to eat at that time. Redfish are all over the place. Sometimes they're lazy and they'll eat anything. Other times they want something really aggressive and fast moving. So if you can see the fish you're throwing artificials to, that's the best. You can kind of react or respond to how that fish reacts to your bait and then go from there to entice a bite. But if you have any questions about any of these artificials, any top waters, any suspending baits, hard baits, soft plastics, ask. Like, I love to share my experience and give my feedback to you guys so it can help you guys catch some fish and have a good time on the water. It's not always about catching fish, but it always helps to make a good day if you can catch some fish or bring some fish home. So let me know. I just put my baby down with my wife to nap, so that's why I'm out here getting able to film some content for everybody. But I hope to be on the water soon, whether it's on the boat throwing some live baits, cast netting, or on the paddle board throwing some artificials for redfish or snook, anything. But let me know what you guys want to see me film next, and hopefully I can get it to you soon. Catch you later.